Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Happy Independence Day. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
Hello, I'm Linda Wilson, and I'm really pleased to be able to share this information with you about the Alabama Interfaith Refugee Partnership, which will be the recipient of the July 2021 Share the Plate offering from UUCB. We so very much appreciate your support of this partnership. Our mission is that we're an interfaith group of laypersons, religious leaders, and community organizations, and we've come together to help refugees and asylum seekers in light of the current global refugee crisis. We're an independent 501c3 nonprofit group. We don't engage in any proselytizing or promoting any religion or political affiliation. Our goal is to support refugees and asylum seekers locally and globally through education, advocacy, and also direct support. It all started at UUCB back in 2016 in response to concerns about the global migration crisis and showing of the film Defying the Nazis. We talked about as a congregation, what could UUCB do to assist global refugees? And Virginia Volker asked me to start up a refugee interest group, which I did. And this group has expanded and grown. We reached out from the very beginning to many other community organizations and faith-based groups. Here's a list of some of our original and current partners. Our first steps were to educate ourselves about the refugee crisis. We decided on the three-part mission, which remains our mission today. We produced fact sheets to support refugees, discussing the Rohingya refugee crisis, increasing the number of refugees admitted to the United States. We began providing direct support to a family from Colombia, a refugee family, in the summer of 2017. And then we also helped another family who received a lottery visa from Aleppo, Syria. Here's the family from Colombia, and I'm really pleased to say they're doing so well. They've actually purchased their first home, and the children are doing very well in school. We had a number of educational programs, clothing drives. We partnered with many different groups, including the Birmingham Islamic Society, the First United Methodist Church. In fact, we've just recently completed another drive for donations for Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, in partnership with the Birmingham Islamic Society. Our second phase was modeled on an organization in West Virginia called the West Virginia Interfaith Refugee Ministry. We reorganized ourselves and had a board, and still were under the auspices of the UUCB, and we sponsored an asylum-seeking family from Syria, a mother and two children, in February of 2019. We also worked with the Shutdown Etowah campaign to help secure release of a young man from Haiti from the Etowah detention facility. And then in October of 2019, we entered our third phase and became a 501c3 charitable organization. We have an 11-member board. I'm the president, and Debbie Soniat, a member of UUCB, is our treasurer. We have a board committee and 5 advisory committees to help us achieve our mission. And we will hire our first AmeriCorps Vista service member in August of 2021. We have more than 300 people on our email list. Our board meets monthly, and there are many opportunities to volunteer and also opportunities to serve on the board. We'll be recruiting 6 board members next September for a 2-year term. So please let me know if you have any interest in working with us. We are currently offering 3 different levels of support to the partner families we serve. It could be full support, including rent and food and other needs, financial assistance, partial support, including just some financial assistance, or volunteer care team support only. All the families we serve have volunteer care teams who work with the families to identify goals to help them achieve self-sufficiency. They help with things like transportation, registering for school, English, cultural orientation. We have a volunteer handbook and an online volunteer orientation program. Currently, we are providing full or partial support to 9 families. And in 2020, we provided full support to 1 family, partial support to 3, and volunteer support for an additional 3 families. We've had a number of educational programs, and we're planning another program in July to celebrate World Refugee Day, which was actually on June the 20th, 2021. We've partnered with the Alabama Coalition for Immigrant Justice on a number of advocacy initiatives, including encouraging the Alabama Department of Public Health to publish COVID information in multiple languages. And we've partnered twice with the Refugee Council USA to host virtual advocacy days, meeting with our legislators and discussing immigration reform proposals. We have on our website also a position statement about President Biden's current immigration reform proposal. We invite you to get involved, serve on a committee, a care team, if you can provide any short-term housing. And as always, financial support is greatly appreciated. And again, we so appreciate the opportunity to be a recipient of the UUCB Share the Plate. Thank you so much. It takes a village. We need you. So please contact me or check out our website, alirp.org, or I can be reached at president@alirp.org. Thank you.
Hello, UUCB friends. Guess what? I have some wonderful news to share with you. At long last, a date has been selected for the return to in-person services. Mark it down on your calendars. Sunday, August the 15th is the date has been targeted by your church leadership to return to fellowshipping in person. We will hold 2 services on that day, one at 10 a.m., followed by another at 12:30 p.m. Live streaming will continue for those that are unable to join in-person services. Thanks to our long-range planning committee and the church board for working together to make this event possible. However, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to prepare our church. We've been away for 18 months, so we need your help to make this occasion very special. Visit www.bit.ly, that's bit.ly/UUCBOpen, and see how you can help to make it possible for that day to be very special for our return. That's, once again, that is www.bit.ly/UUCBOpen. That's www.bit.ly/UUCBOpen. This is indeed a team effort, and we're going to need everyone's help. So visit Bit.ly and see where you can lend a hand. Thank you so much, and we look forward to getting back together in person in August.
Our chalice lighting this morning is adopted by the words of Tracy Bleakley. Our chalice burns with flames. Our flame burns for those who seek and defend the right to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, so that each person may live according to conscience in a democratically elected society. Our flame also burns for the defenders of freedom, working against those who would impose their own religious beliefs on others through intimidation or legislation. May we tend this fire always, ever vigilant and courageous in the struggle for freedom and justice for all. Our chalice is lit. Our opening words this morning were written by Reverend Maureen Killoran. Welcome, you who come in need of healing, you who are confused or have been betrayed. Welcome, with your problems and your pain. Welcome, too, your joys and your wonderings. Welcome your need to hope, your longing for assurance. Instead of answers, here may you find safety for your questions. Instead of promises, may you find community for your struggles. People with hands and hearts to join you in engaging the challenges and changes of our day.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Hi, I'm Andrew Duxbury, member of UUCB for 21 years now. When COVID first hit 15 months ago, I was as baffled as the rest of you. And I spent my time trying to figure it all out, what it meant for healthcare, my profession, for our society, and for me personally. And I started to write. I wrote a whole series of essays. By November, it was pretty clear they were a book. And I'm proud to say that my book, The Accidental Plague Diaries, will be out in roughly 2 weeks. And so you can read for yourself just what COVID has meant to me.
Hello everyone, Mary here for the Stevensons to give you an update. We got to spend last week with all 4 of our adult children and their spouses, and among them the 10 grandkids down at the Gulf of Mexico it was just really good to get to see all of them. We had not seen our daughter, who lives in Maryland, for 446 days. She kept count. So it was just really good to be with them and see how much all the kids had grown, and to share stories of the kinds of things we had all dealt with during the pandemic. We feel fortunate to be healthy and be able to have gotten together to spend some time. Thanks.
What has the pandemic done to me? Well, obviously, wearing a mask and staying quarantined is a big nuisance. But actually, transcontinental family gathering has been much easier with Zoom, which I never would have thought of using before. It's a disguised blessing.
I've been doing since the pandemic is gardening. And before the pandemic, I had never planted successfully anything from seed. But I was a participant in a UAB Auburn program research study called Harvest for Health. And in February, before the lockdown, a volunteer, Carol, came out and showed me how to garden. So it's been a lot of fun, and I want to give you a quick tour of it. This shows the garden part of the garden that's next to Montevallo Road. And you can see a lot of Shasta daisies, which I planted during the height of the pandemic in spring of 2020. You see a sunflower that looks like it's going to be pretty tall, and some lavender off to the left, plus some latanya and some oak leaf hydrangeas. Here you see some seedlings that are coming up along with weeds, and I don't know which is which. You see Dick over there enjoying his coffee and newspaper. And in the back, we have some vegetables, tomatoes and okra and eggplant, basil. And in the back of the house, we have more vegetables. So it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, this is a watermelon, Emma. And looky. I wish you were here, because you like watermelon. And whoa. Yes. And now, bye-bye.
Hi there, I'm Sue Garrett, and in thinking about the pandemic, we early on just missed our family, being with them, our friends, and going to church and dining out. We got a lot of masks and gloves and spray and wipes. We wiped down our mail, we wiped down our groceries, we washed our hands a lot. We did a lot of shopping online. We cleaned out closets. And I made lots of muffins, and we gained some weight. We couldn't go to our regular dental and medical checkups or the hair salon, so look what happened. We went to Scottsboro 2 times early in the year and got our vaccination shots, and we're glad with that. And we're gradually kind of getting back to some kind of normal, which I don't know what it will be, but anyway, we made it through the worst, I guess, so bye-bye.
As Reverend Julie told us once, a moment in time does not define you. take 50.
Wondering how to beat the pandemic blues? Well, just push us some work.
Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change our world for the better. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Alabama Interfaith Refugee Partnership, an organization birthed out of our own congregation that helps refugees resettle in Birmingham. During this time of social distancing and online worship, please know that church expenses continue. Therefore, we very much appreciate your continuing to pay your pledge or offer your donation by either mailing a check to the church office or by using PayPal or Venmo. Our Venmo account is at UUCBHAM. Please designate whether your offering is for UUCB or AIRP. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipient. May we give in love and in hope.
As we come together as part of our beloved community this morning, we are reminded how we can share in our joys and sorrows together. Using the chat feature in YouTube, by speaking it aloud, or by hearing it on your heart, please give voice to what is on your heart today. Our prayer this morning was written by Reverend Leslie Takahashi. Spirit of life, God of love, hear this cry, which begins with gratitude for the human ability to take action to right the wrongs of our kin. If you are the force of love, be loving to these dear ones who would rid the world of hatred and greed. If you are the force of possibility, seed opportunity for those who believe they are forgotten. If you are a larger freedom, break the chains of oppression and ignorance in which so many lives are bound. If you are the power of healing, please, oh please, bring comfort to the little ones who are imprisoned away from their sources of comfort and care. Whatever you are, any force of the more which allows us to reach beyond this reality to a more inclusive and loving presence, give energy to these precious ones who would make a difference. And may their actions inspire all of us to do whatever is in our power to make it known that we will not allow our neighbors to be treated less than human. Please join me in a moment of silence. Amen and blessed be.
Liberating rose that glows on ragged stem, your beauty helps all hearts lose power to condemn. Your buds are tight with prophecy, your thorns are tougher poetry. You sign the whole and gift of life. liberating fire that calls for cleansing rage. Whenever hurtful lies distort our present age, your dancing dreams our liberty to challenge each indignity. You sign the whole and faith of life. O liberating song, whose echo now we sing, your lyrics swelling line rekindle strengthening. Your harmonies portray the time when seeds we sow shall bloom sublime. You sign the whole and hope of life. O liberating love, we hear you in a sigh. We glimpse you when we see a wet or weary eye. We touch you when our hands extend to soothe or to embrace a friend. You sign the whole and source of life.
Good morning to all of the young and young at heart, and welcome to A Time for All Ages. Today, we're going to talk about what independence means, and we're going to do that by looking at a story that I loved when I was a little girl, and that is the story of Deborah Sampson. She was a very fierce and independent person who fought very hard for independence. So, let's look at who Deborah Sampson was. She was a young woman who lived in the United States before it was the United States. She was born in Massachusetts in 1760. Her father was lost at sea when she was just 5 years old, and because of this, her family was very poor, and her mother was forced to place her and her siblings with other families. In 1770, when she was just 10, she was placed as an indentured servant to the Thomas family in Massachusetts, and she worked in their household until she was 18. Deborah never had the chance to attend school, but she taught herself, and by the time she was 18, she had taught herself enough to become a teacher. In 1782, Sampson disguised herself as a man, called herself Robert Shirtliff, and joined the 4th Massachusetts Regiment to fight for American independence. Her primary job with the regiment was as a scout. This is a very dangerous job that involves going into neutral and enemy territory and making sure that it was safe for her regiment to follow. For over 2 years, Deborah fought and served with her regiment as Robert, and no one found out her secret. To keep that secret, Deborah had to avoid doctors, going so far as to treat her own wounds after she was shot with a musket. Her true identity was only discovered after she became very ill and was taken to a hospital while unconscious. After her secret was revealed, she received an honorable discharge from the Army and was given a soldier's pension in recognition of her contributions. So, how does Deborah's story tell us about independence and what that means? Well, independence is having a voice in the laws or the rules that affect your life. For the early Americans, that meant being able to have representation in the body of government that was going to make those laws. The colonies did not have proper representation in the British Parliament, and so part of their fight for independence was to be able to rule and to govern themselves. Independence means being able to make your own decisions and sometimes make your own mistakes and to learn from them. And while the U.S. did win its independence in 1783, there were still many people in the United States who did not have the freedom to vote for the laws that would affect them or make their own decisions, including women like Deborah Sampson, who, although she had served in the Army and fought for that independence, still didn't have the right to vote on the laws that would affect her in her new country. Independence is something that we still have to fight for today. We do this by voting, we do this by protesting, and by letting our voices be heard. Those were the freedoms that Deborah Sampson and thousands of others like her risked their lives for, and we honor them when we use those freedoms to lift up others. So this Independence Day, think about what it means to be independent, to be able to make those decisions for yourself. Think about all the people around the world who don't have that freedom of independence, who aren't able to make those decisions for themselves, and think about how we can lift them up and use our voices to help them. Thank you.
Our reading this morning was written by Reverend Peggy Clark. When this country was founded, the aspiration was high. The men who imagined it dreamed big, casting a vision of a world where all men were created equal, where rights were endowed by our Creator, transcending culture and the expectations of the day, where life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness would be allowed and enjoyed without infringement. It was a radical and new vision born from Enlightenment optimism, inspired by scientific discovery. It was an intoxicating vision, as bold as the Protestant Reformation that swept all of Europe. And they had the hubris to believe they could make it happen. They staked their claim in the Declaration of Independence and institutionalized it in the Constitution. They elected their first president, and when he stepped down, relinquishing power to return to the role of citizen, those founders believed they lived to see their vision realized. A new president ran for office, and the republic was up and running. It was done. A new world order. Those men weren't distracted by the genocide they inspired or the enslavement of other people they required for this nation to be born. They declared equality while swimming in a sea of inequality. When they declared all men were created equal, they meant white Protestant men. They didn't mean women. They weren't including black people who had been enslaved or those who were free. They didn't include Catholics, Jews, or people who didn't own land. They were so proud of their inclusivity, so inspired by their own cutting-edge philosophy, that they had no idea how narrow it was, how constrictive, how small a vision. The men who wrote those words were calling into being a more perfect union. They were establishing justice, ensuring domestic tranquility, securing the blessings of liberty. They believed that they and the men of their generation would bring this new nation into being. They would establish the structures required for such a grand vision. They would test it, and then it would be done. They didn't realize it would require many more people, many different voices. They didn't know how many generations would have to be part of the creation of that dream, how long it would take before the nation they imagined would be made manifest. The soul of America has yet to be born. What Independence Day sights and sounds and tastes did you look forward to as a child? What 4th of July festivities do you look forward to, even today? A few years ago, I asked for some book recommendations from my diverse Facebook list of friends. I checked out a few books from my local library and began the tedious process of reading the first chapter to see if there was anything substantial for either entertainment or sermon fodder. I mean, inspiration. The first chapter often sets the stage for a book, as many of you know, and several books fell away with this test. I realized quickly that many of the books that had been recommended to me were all from the perspective of children, which was fascinating to me since many of the folks participating did not even have children. 2 books caught my attention quickly. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, and The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Both of these books, from the perspective of children, have lessons embedded for all ages. In The Light You Cannot See, we read how children are resilient during times of national crisis. Many of us have seen firsthand how resilient children really are during this pandemic. In The Night Circus, we experience the perspective of a child, all the beauty and mystery of the world, and are reminded to appreciate the inherent beauty and wonder already present around us. The Night Circus details the stories of two children who are used as pawns in a competition between dueling magicians. As the stories unfold, these two spend their entire lives cosmically bound and yet rarely interacting, competing in a competition where neither knows the rules or the goal. Each of the supporting characters is epically described, and the descriptions of the circus are otherworldly. From The Night Circus. You step into a bright, open courtyard surrounded by striped tents. Curving pathways along the perimeter lead away from the courtyard, turning into unseen mysteries dotted with twinkling lights. There are vendors traversing the crowd around you, selling refreshments and oddities, creations flavored with vanilla and honey, chocolate and cinnamon. A contortionist in a sparkling black costume twists on a platform nearby, bending her body into impossible shapes. A juggler tosses globes of black and white and silver high into the air, where they seem to hover before falling again into his hands, his attentive spectators applauding, all bathed in glowing light. The light emanates from a large bonfire in the center of the courtyard. As you walk closer, you can see that it sits on a wide black iron cauldron balanced on a number of clawed feet. Where the rim of a cauldron would be, it breaks into long strips of curling iron, as though it has been melted and pulled apart like taffy. The curling iron continues up until it curls back into itself, weaving in and out amongst the other curls, giving it the cage-like effect. The flames are visible in the gaps between and rising slightly above. They are obscured only at the bottom, so it is impossible to tell what is burning, if it is wood or coal or something else entirely. The flames are not yellow or orange, but white as snow as they dance. In All the Light You Cannot See, two children are simultaneously experiencing the increasing German occupation in World War II, a German orphan named Warner, and a French girl named Marie-Laure. The book begins as they are both children, taking the reader through the normal daily routine of each child. Marie-Laure, who is blind, is learning to navigate the world through her other senses. Her father has built her a miniature version of Paris so she can practice navigating her hometown from the safety of her living room. Warner discovers a radio in the garbage on the street and repairs the radio to functionality. He delights his entire orphanage with the stories of faraway places and music as they gather to listen. Then, as the Germans begin to conquer other lands, Warner discovers his radio no longer receives radio shows from other countries and instead plays propaganda 24/7. Marie-Laura is caught up in the journey of her father hiding an expensive artifact from the museum where he works. As the book unfolds, both of their stories are woven together in an intricate fashion. When I originally read these stories in 2017, I was deeply concerned about the parallels of our modern world and the context of 1930s Europe. One detail which was particularly haunting was the novel's descriptive explanations of the narrative talking heads who spoke 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who promoted only one perspective of the government's actions. Haunting today indeed, when we consider the rise of social media platforms geared toward only one political ideology. Another eerie parallel is the continued creation of concentration camps, even today. After decades of education about why these imprisonments are immoral and unjust and frankly evil. We could look at the genocide of the Uyghurs in China, where over 1 million people of that Muslim ethnic minority are imprisoned and forcibly sterilized. We could look at the oppressions and unwarranted arrests of LGBTQ persons in Belarus and the LGBTQ concentration camps in Chechnya. And before we get too judgmental of these backward societies, we must remind ourselves that we still have, on last count, on our American soil, 640 migrant children locked away in facilities that are proven to be rife with illness, disease, and multiple forms of abuse. Our government has worked very hard to reunite thousands of children, but we need to continue to apply pressure for all of these children to be reunited with their families. I wonder what all of those children will think. Those children locked away in these detention facilities will think tonight when the sky lights up with fireworks in celebration of freedom and independence. What Independence Day sights, sounds, and tastes did you look forward to as a child? What 4th of July festivities do you look forward to even today? Our foreparents struggled and died for our right to be free of our entanglement from Great Britain. They listened to each other. They argued voraciously about what rights should be included, how our government would operate, and who had a say. And they were wrong about many aspects. Their disenfranchisement of BIPOCs, of women, of non-property owning white men. Our country was built on civil disobedience and also on colonialism. Our country chants freedom and also continues to enslave its citizens through the prison system, the payday loans, and prescription drugs. We can both love our country and want it to be better. As Unitarian Universalists, we are compelled to hold multiple truths at the same time. recognizing that we all experience this holiday with different lenses. Frederick Douglass, the great orator, once declared about Independence Day. He said, "I am not included within the glorious pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn." Independence Day, we must remember, was not a day of independence for everyone. All the light we cannot see also reminds us of the dangers of losing our democracy, the one our foreparents worked so hard to create. Before Hitler took power, Germany was also a republic state. The challenges of the Weimar Republic were hyperinflation and political extremism from both sides. We have been frighteningly close to losing our democracy as of late. Democracy is our default here in the United States, but it is not permanent unless we work to keep it so. Democracy is worth fighting for. 4 years ago, Unitarian Universalists all over the country were arguing on Facebook whether our first elected female UUA president, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, won in a fair election, although she won overwhelmingly. And that election seems tiny compared to the stress that we experienced last fall and since, hearing repeatedly, even now, that our election for U.S. president was tainted and rigged despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. In the United States of America, people are challenging our elections and saying they are no longer fair. Multiple states have passed tighter voter restrictions intending on keeping certain voices muted. These are actions we cannot accept lightly. For our free and fair elections, our peaceful transfer of power, the rule of law applying to all people, active participation of our citizenry, all of these hallmarks of democracy have been under attack and at risk of loss in the last several months. President Franklin Roosevelt said, "Let us never forget that the government is ourselves and not an alien power over us. The ultimate rulers of our democracy are not a president and senators and congressmen and government officials, but the voters of this country." Today, we gather the courage of our foreparents as they led a revolution in order to be free from an unjust government. We need to be active participants in our democracy and amplify new and diverse voices to proclaim their truths. We have to work to keep our democracy safe and defend our Constitution from foreign and domestic enemies. Let us look this July 4th through the eyes of a child as we look at our country, not only to renew our faith and hope in this place where we work and strive and struggle together, but for the children, related to us or not, who need a place to grow up in a thriving, transparent republic. Let us teach our children independence and interdependence, all connected to the web of life. Let us model for all children that the struggle for independence is valuable and real and ongoing, and that we will always struggle against the tyrants of greed, oppression, and injustice. But we will keep fighting for a day when none of that exists. Let us fight for our national parks. Let us honor the indigenous folks who were here first. Let us fight to rid ourselves of that horrid Confederate flag. Let us cheer on the day the people of our government look and believe and reflect the many diversities of our people. Let us hope, but let us remember that our hope cannot be contained in one person or even two. We cannot put all of our hope in Biden and Harris. We cannot put our hope in Congress. We have little hope in the Supreme Court. One person cannot save this country or any institution for that matter. The struggle is not yet over, especially if you've noticed how the census restructuring will affect our Congress in 2022. Our hope must rest with each other, with the folks in your congregation, people who believe that individuals should have more rights than corporations, that the environment is worth protecting, that children deserve a safe and nurturing environment, and that all should have the freedom to believe as they do. We must work together to ensure the common good. And also, we must remember that, as Toy Dericote says, joy is an act of resistance. As the beauty of the night circus unfolds, we see that even in the unknown, beauty manifests. This 4th of July, remember to take in the holiday with all of your senses. The beauty of the fireworks, the music, the booms, the bright colors, whatever senses work for you. The smell and taste of popcorn and hot dogs, the crunch of grass under your feet. Our independence is worth celebrating every year, and this year especially. May we continue to work to keep our country the land of the free and the home of the brave, where your tired, your poor, your huddled masses are yearning to breathe free. America is worth fighting for because our people deserve better. Democracy is worth fighting for because every vote matters. Our neighbors are worth fighting for because they have inherent worth and dignity. We are worth fighting for because religious freedom is a hallmark of our country. This Independence Day, may you celebrate your freedom in whatever way works for you as you join with others to work for freedom for all people. Amen and blessed be.
Faith
Our extinguishing this morning was written by Reverend Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Never has it been more true than now. We extinguish this flame, but the sparks within us remain alight. From each of us, in our supposed solitude, the signals buzz and hum, sparking through space to one another, connecting us invisibly but palpably. We are one, and from every window, our light shines. Amen, and blessed be.
you.